Hi, I'm Marilyn Walker, owner of Playfair Toys in Colorado, and I'm here with Dan Weaver of KnightWeaver Games. Say hello, Dan.
Hello.
And Dan is going to tell us about his two games currently out, Patchwork and Patchword. But first, let's just ask you about how you got into the game making business.
Well, I've been interested in inventing games for about 10 years, and I've done it just as a hobby and just for fun. And about 3 years ago, when I was in the shower, I came up with this idea after a night of playing poker with some buddies, where I was in the shower and I was picturing one of the hands from the night before, and I realized that the back of the cards were never used. And that was the aha moment.
The poker shower moment.
The poker shower moment, exactly. You know, because the shower is the place where all invention happens.
Right.
And so I thought, you know, that what would be fun would be to try that out. You know, make a new deck of cards with my own designs and see if I could invent a game around the idea of using both sides of the card. And the first thing that came to mind was this idea of basically like Go Fish or Indian Poker, where it's the color one, where you're just trying to make sets of colors, make 4 more in a row on either the inside of your hand or the opponent's hands. And so I prototyped it up, just using Adobe Illustrator on my computer, and played it with some friends. I actually have a friend in the neighborhood who's also a game inventor, and so he and I will get together to bounce ideas off each other. And so when we first played it, it didn't quite work, and we had a brainstorming session and came up with the one adjustment that needed to be made, and then it just fell out. It worked really, really well.
So it's like poker.
Well, not really, but the genesis of the idea was based on a night of playing poker. It's more kind of like a logic game, where you're having to figure out how you can arrange your cards with your opponents so you can get the sets and the cards that you need.
And so you did manufacture with children in mind.
Yes, very much manufactured with children in mind. I have 3 boys myself, ages 11, and Dylan, my middle one, just turned 9 today. And
Happy birthday, Dylan.
Yeah, happy birthday, Dylan. Woohoo! And a 3.5-year-old. So I'm very much tuned into kids and fun games that will kind of teach them something. So I'm a firm believer that the best way for someone to learn something is by having fun. Particularly like basic logic skills is something I see as a big gap.
Right.
There are a lot of games that teach that. So that was important to me. It was definitely part of that idea.
Dan, on just a really personal note now,
I'm getting you, Kelly.
Busy store today. When you first introduced yourself to me, you were a friend of a friend.
Uh-huh.
And that came from the fact that we both are in the biological sciences.
Yep.
So I'd just like you to tell us about that for a second.
Yep. So my background is I have a PhD in developmental biology and genetics. And so I worked in the field of life sciences for about 20 years now. And I've also always done computer programming. And so I do what's called bioinformatics or scientific computing. And I work for a pharmaceutical company here in town, Array Biopharma. And the job that I use to fund all these hobbies is that I'm working with other scientists to try to invent medicines that can treat cancer or inflammation diseases or diabetes. And so my little joke is that by day I try to cure cancer, and by night I try to make people happy.
Great. Okay. That is really interesting.
Yeah.
And
one other thing that turns out is that, because I do computer programming, the kind of mental exercise you have to go through to write a computer program is actually pretty similar to writing the rules for a game. You need to have this kind of structured but flexible way of describing something very precisely, because writing the rules is far and away the hardest part of inventing the game. I mean, so for all you wannabe game inventors out there, just
take that in.
Yeah, take that in. And so one of my things is the rules have to be simple, because I'm not that good a writer and I can only write so much well. And so a design principle of KnightWeaver games is the rules can be no more than 1 page. The games have to be games that you can learn in 5 minutes or less. And this is a game you can, both of these are games I can teach anybody in about a minute or 2.
Okay.
And the rules have to be something that a naive person can pick up and learn very quickly.
And then also be fascinating and have strategy involved and luck as well.
Yeah. So yeah, when I sat down to actually make a game invention company, there are a few things I laid down that kind of reflect what I enjoy in games. Because I've been playing games forever, much more than the last 10 years, and there are always these common threads to the games that I love. And the threads are, there's a strategy element to it, so you have to be thinking as you play. There's a lot of player interaction, so there's a lot of social, because I believe games are a lot about social interaction and social fabric. There has to be a random element so that there's something you're having to react to. You can't just plan out a strategy and have it work all the way through, because that's not the real world. In the real world, there's all this kind of random stuff that happens, and you have to be able to respond to it. And of course, it has to be light and fun.
Right. Great. Okay. So, thanks so much. And now we're going to take a look at your two games and learn a little bit how to play it.
Awesome.
Okay.